The Winchester 1300. Model 1300, 12 gauge, 2 3/4 and 3-inch. This particular one has the wind choke mechanism, which allows you to actually very rapidly cycle the pump after you squeeze the trigger. But that's not, I've won a couple competitions, IPSC matches with this. It's very light, it's very easy to carry. Personally, I would like to have a shorter barrel, but it's a bit silly, especially sort of the conditions in which this rifle is relevant, which is, hunting birds and countryside stuff. So, there isn't really much to it other than it being very, very light, very easy to carry, very nice to use. I think a lot of people would argue this is one of the best pump action shotguns ever made. In fact, if you were to pick a pump action shotgun, this would certainly be the one that you would pick. But this video is actually about cool loading tricks that you can do cycling the gun. And I'm just going to start off by actually cycling the shotgun. When it's locked like this, there's a little button here you can press and it opens the slide. So I'm going to load it. Now there's a slug in there with the safety on, which is right there. So now you can imagine there's a loaded shotgun here. And say your whole tube is full. Everything's full, +1, right? And it's all buckshot. And you're on a stage. And one of the next shots you got to make is 100 meters. You want to use a slug. Well, there's a trick that you can do where when you press this button down and cycle back, once the slide goes back a certain distance, you push this up like that, and as you pull the pump back, you put your hand over both this exit port and under here, and what you're left with is 2 shots. Okay, so the cool thing about this is that you can also do it safely. Say you're at a hunting lodge and you want to unload your shotgun safely without putting anything in the chamber. You can do the same thing where you push that button, pull the pump back, put your finger in here to move the slide in, and then it comes out from underneath. So I'm going to load it, then we're going to do the same, and now there's 2 shotguns out. So I like to keep a painted shell as my last round. So that was kind of one super cool trick. Is it useful? I think it is, honestly, in many ways. But it's at the same time, it's more useful as a trick that rather than a trick that you actually use, right? So it's a cool thing to know because it adds options. And sometimes those options are only relevant for 1/1,000,000th of a percentage of that time. But when you need it, it's actually super useful. And in this case, when we're talking about 2 shells at the same time, well, double-barreled hunting shotguns, it's 2 shots. So, there's something there. And so the next thing that I thought would be pretty cool to show is actually a simple 2-shot load. Now, in IPSC today, people carry vests where the shells are stacked like this, and you can grab 2 at the same time, and then when you put it in, you put the first one in, and then you put both in, so now you just slide 2. The thing is, how many people actually have those vests that holds those shells above each other so firmly? That's something that most of the time people actually have to custom build for themselves. So what happens when you just want to pick, you got a pocket, you take 2 out, right? So you take 2 out, you slide your hand all the way down here at the same time as you flip it down, and then what I like to do is really firmly press my cheeks down against the buttstock And now that this first hand is here, I can actually hold that first shell in there, and then with the second one, push the two in, right? So it's very easy. I can just hold it there. Whoops, that's one of the downsides of a shotgun, of course. And then you can drop shells. So that's, you know, marginally faster. But sometimes if you're fumbling and you grab in your pocket, you might accidentally take two. So it's a kind of a cool trick to do that. So that's one cool thing that you can do. And what else was I going to say? Then there is also, for example, if you just got a regular ammo belt, right? I like to have mine from here to there. And what I do when I'm loading one shell at a time in competition is that I will press my cheek. I don't know, my glasses are there. I'll press my cheek down. I'll pull the shotgun quite far up, but I'm and then with my cheek, I'm pushing it down very firmly. And then what I do with the mouth of the loading gate here, I slide it over every single shell spot. So the shells will be like here, right? I got the bandolier here with all the shots. And what I do is one at a time, I take one shot, then I move the shotgun over to the next slot. I pull one out, put it in, move the shotgun over to the next slot, pull one out, put it in, pull my shotgun over to the next spot, like this, right? So I think that's the fastest way to do one shot at a time. And it's a cool trick. And of course, that's just with the bandolier. Someday I'll show at the shooting range with the bandolier how it's done. I like this shotgun a lot. What else? What other tricks was I gonna show? There's actually a lot of really cool tricks you can do with these shotguns, and a lot of the, you know, real potential from a shotgun actually comes from the skill of the user, of course. But there's guns out there where you don't really need that much skill. You always need a lot of skill, but I mean, you know, go to any IPSC competition, almost 50% of the people have trouble shooting, you know, this size group, 300 meters with an AR-15 and bipods and a scope, you know, $6,000 setup. So, you know, it's important to have a lot of skill, but there's also a lot of guns out there that do a lot of work for you, you know. But the skill is always going to be important. The point I'm trying to make actually doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, but I guess it just depends how many firearms and how many people you've encountered with the whole deal. So, yeah, how are we gonna just like this, and then I slide my hand here, put the first one in, there. Just a little fun trick, you know. How cool is that? And that's like a hunting lodge trick, you know. One thing to consider is you do kind of batter the back of your shells. There is a little bit of battering going on there. So that's something to really consider when doing these kind of loads. I hope you liked the video. I think that's all I got for today on this marvelous, wonderful shotgun. Just some cool tricks. I don't know if this works with a Mossberg. I don't think this works with some other shotguns. And, you know, I had to saw off the front of this handle to get some of that to work. I didn't like it before. It's kind of like a bird hunting length, but this is good. I like this a lot. I don't see why I would ever put any attachments on this. I've tried. I've put like shell holders and stuff, and it's just like, why would I add weight to a shotgun? I noticed in IPSC competitions that adding weight to the shotguns dramatically slows down the shooting and target acquisition. You're really looking for the lightest shotgun possible. And something else I started noticing with competitions is that this barrel is too long. And that's something that might like kind of piss off some people, or I don't know what, like kind of trigger some ideas. But I feel like what I would love to try is to get a barrel that's about this short for IPSC competition, because this barrel just gets stuck in all, like it just gets in the way And with the way that shotguns work, this high mobility, one-shot kind of thing, I think in terms of IPSC, the way people think about it might actually be wrong. Again, it's not tested, but it's an idea that I started thinking about, and someday I'm going to get myself a shorter barrel for this shotgun and test that out. The recoil is probably going to be a bit bigger. I don't know, hard to say. It could be less because there's less powder burn. So maybe a choke of some kind or some kind of compensator would be an interesting thing to add to a shorter barrel. But either way, this is an excellent shotgun that I recommend for everybody. There's really nothing that can go wrong with this in the sense of like a concept and design. I mean, it's a perfected model. It's a perfected design. Once you perfect a design, you could produce it for 100 years and it's still modern. It's still up to date, you know? So I got this one. It's my first gun. I got it when I was 14 or 16. I don't remember. When I got my hunting license. So pretty cool in Finland, being like a 15-year-old kid in middle school, and you got this wind choke, police action, speed action shotgun at home. I remember when my teachers found out that I was a competitive shooter, and they're like, "Do you have guns? Blah, blah, blah. You have guns?" I remember my English teacher was like, really like, and I was just like, "Yeah, I mean, I got a pump action police grade shotgun at home." I deliberately just pushed it into her face. Like, I don't give a fuck. The thing is, like, this is what a hunting shotgun looks like. This is a hunting shotgun. It's got a wind choke, and it's great for shooting skeets. It's great for doing everything you want. You can shoot slugs, you can shoot Magnum ammo, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's what's important about a pump action shotgun. It should allow you to do everything that you can do with any 12 gauge shells, right? Like, if you're going to get yourself a pump action 12 gauge shotgun, it better feed every single 12 gauge shell out there reliably, whether it's any size. So once you got that handled down, then, you know, there's nothing really much more to worry about. A lot of people want to put Picatinny up there with red dots. I don't know, I've never been a fan of red dots. They don't really work so well in Finland because snow just wrecks them really quickly. Cold air, when you're breathing and running, it'll just fog up very quickly. And then in the winter in Finland, it gets dark so early that even like the smallest setting on the red dot blinds your night vision in your eye, your strong eye too. So, okay, that's more like a military thing, but that's something to consider, to think about. When I was in the military, we were given a bunch of aim points and red dots and stuff like that. And within a couple hours, everybody took them off because it was just super bulky, unnecessary. And when it comes to guerrilla warfare, like, most of the time you're really just spray and praying anyway. And you just hope that your CV90-30 rail cannon 30mm fragmentation ammunition wreaks havoc on your enemies, because this is pretty nasty stuff that's coming out of those tanks. Not much more to really say about that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. There's a lot of cool stuff that I'll do at a shooting range someday. And peace!